You open your eyes. The darkness is absolute. The air burns your lungs with every breath. You don't know what year it is. You don't know what a year is. You have never seen a written word. You have never touched metal. You have never tasted grain. But you know one thing with perfect clarity. If that faint orange glow near your feet has gone out, if those embers have died while you slept, then today is the day your entire family freezes to death. You lift your head. Your neck is stiff. Your body aches from sleeping on hard ground covered in dry grass and animal hide. 3 other bodies press against you, skin against skin, warmth against warmth. You can feel their breathing, slow and deep. They are still asleep. You look toward the hearth. A faint pulse of orange light. Still alive, still breathing. The embers glow under a blanket of grey ash, and the relief that floods through your chest is so deep that a modern person would not understand it, because a modern person has never depended on a single flame for their life. Someone kept it alive through the night. A boy, barely old enough to hunt. He sits near the hearth with hollow eyes. He has not slept. His job was to feed the fire through the darkest, coldest hours. One handful of dried grass at a time, one piece of bone at a time. If he had fallen asleep, if he had let those embers die, you would not be waking up right now. None of you would. Before you have even stood up, before you have eaten a single bite, you owe your life to a teenager who fought sleep all night so that a small pile of glowing ash would still be warm when you opened your eyes. That is how thin the margin is. And today, it gets thinner. You sit up and the cold attacks every gap in your clothing. It finds the seam at your neck. It slides between the layers at your wrist. It wraps around your ankles like frozen hands. But you are still alive. And the reason you are still alive is wrapped around your body right now. Most people imagine Ice Age humans wearing one rough animal skin thrown over a shoulder. That image is completely wrong. What you are wearing right now is tailored, fitted, engineered. A soft inner layer sits against your skin. A tougher outer layer blocks the wind. Your boots are stitched tight and packed with dry grass for insulation. Your hood covers your ears and the back of your neck. Your mittens are sewn shut at the fingertips to trap every molecule of warm air your hands produce. Every single piece was built with one tiny tool, a needle carved from bone, thinner than a modern toothpick, sharper than you would believe possible. That needle is the most valuable object in your world, more valuable than any weapon, more valuable than any food, because without it, without the ability to sew fitted clothing that seals warm air against your skin, you cannot survive a single night on this frozen continent. Archaeologists have found these needles at Ice Age sites across Europe and Asia. Some of them are 40,000 years old, and every single one of them represents the same truth. Someone sat by a fire for hours, pushed bone through stiff animal hide again and again, stitched and measured and fitted, so that someone they loved would not freeze to death. That is not primitive survival. That is devotion expressed through craft. And it is the reason your species conquered the coldest world it has ever faced. You crawl out through the shelter opening, and the full force of the Ice Age hits you. The landscape is white, endless, silent, a world of frozen grass stretching to the horizon in every direction. No trees, no fences, no roads, no buildings. The sky is a pale, hard blue. The air is so cold that your nostrils stick together with every inhale. Steam rises from the shelter behind you. You are standing on the Mammoth Steppe, the largest biome that has ever existed on Earth. It stretched from Ireland to Alaska, a single unbroken grassland larger than any modern continent. And it was full of life. Woolly mammoths, woolly rhinos, bison, horses, reindeer, cave lions twice the size of modern lions, giant hyenas that could crack a mammoth femur with their jaws. You live in the middle of all of it. You are not at the top of the food chain here. You are somewhere in the middle. And the only things keeping you above the bottom are your brain, your tools, and the 40 people sleeping in the shelters behind you. Your first task of the morning seems simple, but getting it wrong will kill you just as surely as a cave lion. Water. You are surrounded by frozen water in every direction. Snow covers everything, ice lines every stream, and you cannot eat any of it. Putting snow directly in your mouth pulls heat from your core. In this climate, your core temperature is the only engine keeping you alive. Stealing heat from it to melt snow in your stomach is like draining the fuel tank of a car in the middle of a desert highway. You will slow down. Your thinking will blur. Your muscles will stop responding, and you will sit down in the snow and never get up. So you melt ice over the fire, slowly, carefully, in a vessel made from hide or hollowed bone. You wait for it to warm, then you drink. Every sip of water you take today required fire first, and fire required someone to stay awake all night, and staying awake required calories, and calories required yesterday's hunt. Everything here is connected. Pull one thread and the whole thing unravels. The fire has another problem. Look around. There are almost no trees. The mammoth steppe is grassland, vast, open, windswept. So what burns? Everything you can find. Dry grass twisted into tight bundles, animal dung dried in the wind, and bone. Bone soaked in animal fat burns slowly and hot. A fuel source that walks around on 4 legs across the plain. Your people learned this thousands of years ago. They learned to crack bones open, render the fat out, soak the remaining bone in grease, and burn it through the night. When modern archaeologists excavate Ice Age sites, they find hearths full of burned bone, not because these people were wasteful, but because bone was the best fuel available in a world without forests. And if the fire ever does die completely, you can restart it. But it is not easy. You strike iron pyrite against flint. Sparks shower onto a nest of dried fungus and shredded grass. You bend low. You breathe on it, gently, patiently, coaxing smoke into flame with a control that would exhaust a modern person. Starting fire from nothing is a skill that takes years to master, which is why you almost never let it go out. When your band moves camp, someone carries a smoldering ember wrapped in dried fungus and hide, a living coal carried in human hands across the frozen steppe. Fire walks with you, always. With the fire fed and water warming, your body demands the next thing, food. And the first thing you reach for is not meat, it is fat. In the cold, calories are heat, and fat is the most calorie-dense substance available to you. Eating lean meat alone in this climate will kill you. Your body burns through protein too fast. It cannot extract enough energy to maintain core temperature. You will eat and eat and eat and still starve. There is a name for this: rabbit starvation, protein poisoning. Your ancestors knew this long before science had words for it. So you reach for the good stuff. You crack a leftover bone and scoop out the marrow. Warm, rich, dense with energy. You scrape rendered fat from a stored pouch. You chew strips of dried meat that were pounded together with berries and fat into dense cakes that last for months. Grease coats your chin, your fingers shine with it, and the warmth that spreads through your chest with every bite is one of the deepest physical pleasures your world offers. Because here, a full belly is not comfort. A full belly is survival measured in hours. Around you, the camp stirs to life. Children whine, someone coughs, someone feeds the fire. The smell of smoke and fat and animal hide fills the cold air. And then the real work begins. Not the hunt, not the dramatic chase across the steppe, the work that actually kept your entire species alive through 100,000 years of ice. Hide processing. A dead animal feeds you for a week, but its skin, properly worked, keeps you alive for years, and turning a raw, bloody animal skin into soft, flexible leather is one of the most labor-intensive tasks in human history. You kneel over a stretched hide staked to the ground. You scrape. Flesh from the inside, hair from the outside, hour after hour. With a flint scraper that numbs your fingers in the cold, your knuckles crack, your shoulders burn, but you keep going. Because if you stop, if you let this hide dry before it is fully processed, it becomes stiff as wood, useless, wasted. After scraping comes softening. You work the hide by hand, pulling, stretching, rubbing. Sometimes you use the animal's own brain, mashed into a paste and worked into the fibers to make them supple. Then you smoke it over the fire. The smoke seals the hide, keeps it flexible, prevents rot. Only after all of this does it become the material that makes everything else possible. Clothing, boots, shelter walls, bags, cord, blankets. The entire infrastructure of Ice Age life was built from processed animal hide. And the people doing this work, mostly women, mostly invisible in every movie and documentary ever made about this era. They were the backbone of survival. Without their hands, without their hours, without their skill, every hunter on the steppe would have frozen to death in his sleep. While you work the hide, a scout returns, moving fast, signaling with his hands. The herd is close, and suddenly the entire energy of the camp shifts. Today is a hunt day. The men and some of the women take up spears, but you do not charge. You do not scream and run at a mammoth. That is how you die. Real Ice Age hunting is slow, patient, calculated. You read the wind, face into it so your scent blows behind you. You read the herd, find the old one, the slow one, the one slightly separated from the group. You fan out in silence, communicating with hand signals developed over a lifetime of practice. In your hand is a spear, and attached to your arm is the weapon that changed everything, the atlatl, a carved piece of wood with a hook on the end that fits into the base of your spear. It works like an extension of your arm, doubling the speed and force of your throw. Without it, your spear bounces off a mammoth's hide. With it, your spear punches through. You drive the old mammoth towards soft ground, where its massive weight works against it. The signal comes. Spears fly from every direction. The animal screams. The ground shakes under its feet. You are close enough to feel the wind from its trunk, close enough to die if you take one wrong step. But you don't take that step, and together, under a rain of spears, the giant falls. But the kill is only the beginning. Now you butcher, fast, in the cold, with flint blades and freezing hands. Meat is cut and hauled back to camp in relays. Fat is rendered. Organs are eaten first because they spoil fastest. The hide is stretched for processing. Bones are saved for fuel and tools and building material. Tusks are set aside. Nothing is wasted. Nothing can be. A single mammoth is weeks of food, months of fuel, a year of material. And every minute you spend in the open is a minute the predators circle closer, drawn by the smell of blood on the wind. Night falls. The cold deepens. The sky fills with more stars than any modern human has ever seen. No light pollution, no haze, just the raw galaxy pouring across the black from horizon to horizon. You sit by the fire. The day's work is done, hides scraped, meat stored, tools mended, children fed. And now the nature of your world changes completely. In daylight, talk is practical, where the herds went, which routes are ready, who saw fresh tracks. But at night, around the fire, you tell stories, creation myths, tales of ancestors who walked this same step 100 generations ago, stories of trickster spirits and talking animals and heroes who outwitted death. The children lean in, their eyes wide, faces painted orange by the firelight, and in those stories they learn everything: which animals are dangerous, which plants heal, what happens to people who betray the band, how the world was made, and what it expects from you. This is your school, your church, your theatre, your library, all of it happening in a circle of warm light, surrounded by an infinity of cold dark. And scientists now believe that these fireside hours, these stories, this shared imagining of things that do not exist, may be the single most important thing that made humans human. Not the tools, not the fire, not the hunt, the stories. Because a story lets you live a life you have never lived, learn from a mistake you never made, travel to a place you have never been. And that is the superpower that no other animal on Earth has ever possessed. Later, you sleep, but not the way a modern person sleeps. You do not lie down at 11 and wake at 7. You drift off shortly after dark, sleep deeply for a few hours, then wake, fully, calmly, in the dead center of the night. The fire crackles, bodies breathe around you, and your mind floats in a quiet, reflective state between sleep and waking. You think about the day. You turn your dreams over while they are fresh. Maybe you whisper to the person beside you. Maybe you just lie still and listen to the wind outside the shelter. Then you sleep again until dawn. 2 sleeps, with a peaceful hour of wakefulness between them. This was normal for almost all of human history. Modern people who jolt awake at 2 a.m. and panic and reach for their phone are not broken. Their body is running an ancient program, a program written across tens of thousands of Ice Age nights, just like this one. And that is the truth this entire day has been building toward. Everything you just lived, the fire, the needle, the clothing, the water, the fat, the hide, the hunt, the stories, the 2 sleeps. None of it is ancient history happening to a stranger. It is your own deep past. That body you spent all day inside was not someone else. It was your ancestor, and their world shaped everything you still are. Your love of stories told around a glowing screen. That is the campfire. Your need for a small, trusted circle of people. That is the band. Your craving for fat and warmth and belonging. That is 200,000 years of Ice Age programming still running inside you. You did not leave these people behind when you built cities and paved roads and launched satellites. You just covered them up. They are still in there, still watching the fire, still listening for danger, still reaching for the people they love in the dark. And that bone needle from this morning, the object worth more than gold. Turns out it was never really about survival. It was about someone sitting in the cold for hours, pushing bone through hide, stitch after stitch, so that someone they loved would wake up warm. That is who you come from. That is who you still are. You just forgot. But your body remembers. It always has.